About a dozen years ago, they had the Splendors of the Vatican exhibit at the St. Louis Art Museum. And so I and a couple of my youth group went to see these splendors. And it was pretty nice. I got a t-shirt out of it. I also learned that it took them over about 100 years to build the Vatican. And if you think about it, then that means there's different architects who are overseeing this, different plans, and especially over 100 years, there are probably different building materials. And so it was kind of a miracle that the Vatican just got built in the first place. But although I knew all this and I learned all this, it really didn't have much of an impact in my life. Here I am telling you about it, and you could pretty much say, well, so what? In the same way, Abraham is learning about God, and his name is Abraham. And what he does is he learns about God, but it doesn't change his life. The very next couple chapters are Abram failing to follow God, failing to trust God, not really doing much that's really a man of faith. It's only when he encounters God in a real way and makes a covenant with him. And that's when his name changes from Abram to Abraham. And it changes the way he is. He's now the man of faith, one of the fathers in faith. It is that experience, that encounter, I should say, that is what made it change. And so when Jesus is transformed on the mountain, Peter and the gang just don't know what to do with it. They want to make it an experience. Lord, it's good that you're here. Let's build 3 tents, one for you, Moses, and Elijah. They just want to put it there and maybe just memorialize it, maybe even put in a tourist trap there, sell some souvenirs, but not really change. And we see the lack of change because right after he comes down from the mountain, they start squabbling about who's the greatest. After they come down from the mountain, Peter says, I don't know him, 3 times to people that went during his passion. It is only through the passion, death, and resurrection that this encounter changes Peter. That this encounter leads to a change of life. But then again, we oftentimes don't have that sort of encounter. Who of us among us would say, oh gee, I was just meditating and all the angels and saints opened up and I had this religious experience and Jesus talked to me personally? It doesn't happen. At least it doesn't happen to me. But there are ways that we encounter God. I remember one way was that the night before I went off to seminary, I was packing, obviously, and my parents would feed raccoons on their porch. And because I was packing so much, I neglected to see the raccoons on the porch. And so then the very next day, before I got in the car to go to the seminary, I was running through a park and thinking, gosh, I wish I had been able to see those raccoons. And as I no sooner think that, then I run by a can and I hear a rustling. And so I look in the can and there's a raccoon. Now, any other time it would have been just a varmint that's in a trash can causing disease and doing all sorts of damage. But at that time, I recognized Jesus had given me a gift, saying, I'm with you, that here it is, I love you, here's a little bit of a nice thing about a raccoon. And it's that little thing that changed it into an encounter for me to sustain me in my faith as I move along. That if there's some time I'm thinking, well, God's pretty much forsaken me, I can always look back at that and say, no, God has always been there with me. If I just but look. What is that encounter that sustains you in your faith? Not an experience where you can say, okay, I went here and I got a a souvenir, but a real encounter that drew something from us and caused us to respond. What is it that continues to feed us, that continues to help us and nourish us on our journey?